gorgeous, huh?
Yeah.
Who's been here before? Raise your hand. Nope. No one's there. All right. Woo! We did it. We brought him to a place we've never been. I think Jeremy said he's been here.
See, some of our goals for this trip are to find the smallest cave.
Yeah.
Right, we want to find the smallest
That you
cave.
can get into.
Oh, I will win that one.
So running dry, what you've noticed is it's meeting us kind of, we're coming at it from the other angle. And so I do want to point out that yesterday we were in the Great Basin, in Basin and Range. We've crossed out of that into the Mojave. And that really happened last night, in the dark of night. It was a pretty sharp transition. Some of you noticed yucca all of a sudden on the side of the road in the dark. I don't know how you saw that. Sharp eyes.
And Joshua Tree?
Yeah, we might have gone past some Joshua Tree. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Joshua Tree.
A lot of it.
We'll see them again. So they're coming back to us. But you've just crossed into the Mojave, and you're going to notice that by some of the, when you start looking at plants that are around, it's going to be hard to find your sagebrush now. It's up there, it's up on the tops of it. Right, we dropped below it. That's kind of interesting. But the interesting thing about the Great Basin, and the reason we call it the Great Basin, of course, is all the rivers in the Great Basin drain to
Colorado.
No.
Oh.
No, they drain to inland valleys where they evaporate and they don't reach the sea.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what makes the Great Basin so unique. That's what makes Salt Lake so unique. And now we've crossed into a region that does drain towards the Colorado. Okay, so down in the Mojave. So now we're in the Colorado Basin, but we're on the west side of it. And we're on the west side of it and not the part that John Waterman's talking about. So he's coming from the Colorado River in the Rockies down into the Colorado River proper. Yeah.
So was the Great Basin formed because of the rivers?
No. No, I mean, a lot of the basin and range is a result of pressures on the North American plate that have kind of squeezed and stretched that region as the Rockies and the Sierras/Cascades rose. And so that's kind of formed it, but it just ended up creating a number of inland seas that ended up evaporating and then creating drainage basins that go down to the inland seas that no longer drain out. So that's kind of a unique thing about, and that's not all of the Great Basin, but it's the majority of why we call it the Great Basin. Topographically, what's so unique about it. But now we're kind of climbing into, we're either Colorado Plateau or what we call kind of Painted Desert, just because it's like, what do we call this? We're not quite full on Mojave. We're not quite Great Basin anymore. We're in some transition zone. So I've called it Painted Desert for you on here as an ecoregion, but it's kind of unique, kind of consistent with like all the way to Moab, a lot of the southern Utah national parks. You're in that. You're in that same ecoregion for a lot of that. You'd see a lot of the same plants. In fact, today as we walk around, I'll use my Grand Canyon book because a lot of our plants are at least similar enough to our Grand Canyon flora that they work here. And in fact, we're just a hop, skip, and a jump from the Grand Canyon proper. Lake Mead is just off to the east of us a little bit, and then that of course is the end of the Grand Canyon. So that just kind of helps us position where we are. Was there any other reason I want to talk about the places? So this morning, let's talk about plants. So rather than us sitting up here and chatting at you about what you're seeing, we thought it'd be a lot more fun for you to go out and do some exploring and then come back. All right, so to start with, this is our first time we've really gotten close to it other than our tiny little one surviving seedling in the lab. This is your creosote bush. Laurea tridentata, and we just talked about it, but for those of you who just wrote the name down but hadn't gotten close up and personal, here we go. And we've seen kind of rings like this before in like the jade plant at the conservatory, but these are actual annual growth rates, so you can kind of see the annual growth on this guy going really far back, which is kind of fun. Rich oils can live up to 14,000 years. You'll remember a lot of its relatives are down in South America. It's in the Zygophyllaceae, totally weird family, and smells great. The question we've already gotten, and you're going to see it again, is what about these? What are these little golf ball, things on it? These are galls. So these are insect galls that are really common. There are several species of gall that will be on the creosote, and we have a gall guide in the library. Okay, so look them up and read about their natural history. It'll be better than my brain trying to remember what specific galler is doing this for sure. Yeah, so that's that guy. I don't know why tridentata. It's so strange. It just has 2 leaves, but for some reason we call it tridentata. It might actually have to do with the flower, if I remember right. Here's our ephedra down here below. So if you didn't exactly know what we were talking about when we were going through talking about ephedra, here you go. And ephedra is one of our ancient plants. So that's good to know. It's not an angiosperm. Really old family. Trifurca, I think.
For the ephedra?
Yeah.
When I keyed it out, I thought it was a nevadensis.
Nevadensis. Yeah, that would be for our region. Like I said, there's a lot of different species of ephedra.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
And so if you have disagreements about the species, go to the keys,
Right.
and they will be vegetative in terms of their definition, mostly. Yeah.
I'm just reading this book here. It says certain creosote plants in the Southwest are thought to be the oldest living plants over 1,000 years.
Yeah, 14,000 years is the estimated age for one called king clone that is actually 100 miles from us, maybe at the most, right here. We'll go by it at the end of the trip.
And it probably was only like 10 feet tall.
Yeah, they'll grow in fairy rings. So they clone, and then they spread out in these giant rings. And so that's how the one that we know is the oldest, it's because of that. But there could be older ones that we just don't know about because we don't recognize the ring structure. We can't see below ground. We can't see that they're all linked.
And are they mainly dated through dendrochronology?
No, you can't do that because they're underground cloners. So we have to estimate. The only way you can do it is if you find a fairy ring and it's all intact, based on the rate of growth, you can estimate the age. And you'd say, wow, this would take 14,000 years to get this big. Right. So, kind of fast.
14,000 years.
This guy doesn't have many leaves on it here. Is this the smoke bush, or do we have little spiny? This is what you thought was smoke bush? Ah, but then I have a key that tells me it's not, and I'll show you what it is. Oh, I can barely get it off of there. Okay, if you look really closely at these guys, you're going to find these, yeah, crazy little fruits. So this guy doesn't have any leaves on it right now, but I think that this is actually Crameria erecta. A-R-A-M.
A-R-A.
Area. E-R-I-A.
Is that different? We also have Crameria grussonia.
Yeah, it might be the same. If that's what you find for this region.
I think that was on the list.
Oh, you got it.
Picture the little seed and it's the white.
White ratany. Yeah, so white ratany is commonly the name. So if you're getting bicolor, you're getting just a different, someone decided to put it in a different species on iNaturalist or something.
Sorry, Dylan, you said Camaria?
Crameria. Yeah, the old name is Crameria.
What did you say the common name was?
Ratany. White ratany, which is a terrible name for such a beautiful plant. Really cool thing about this plant, it's parasitic.
Wow.
Oh.
So this plant below ground is linked into our other shrub here, our Macranthera or whatever that our other shrub here is next to it. So it's parasitic. Its fruits are parasitized by insects that gall inside the fruit. And so it's a parasite that gets parasitized.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it produces as a nectar reward. It has these crazy little mask-like flowers. We're going to find these eventually. They're like purple, crazy mask-looking zygomorphic flowers. And instead of a nectar reward, they have an oil reward for bees. And so bees visit them to collect oil.
What?
Yeah.
What do they do with the oil?
Yeah, kind of cool. Anyway, you'll find it, but pay attention, and you'll almost always find it associated with another shrub, so there's more of it over there. Yeah, those are the big ones, and then we covered ambrosia, and then if you haven't seen sandpaper bush, let's go over it. But for some of you, there'll be kind of an overload of natural history today, seeing all sorts of new stuff, which is fun. What you see, there's a lot of cool stuff right around here. As we get into the broader valley, you're going to see even more.
I wonder if they irrigate it.
Yes, heavily, probably. Or like grass. Probably not.
But in this guy, see the banner either hasn't fused or it's just starting to fuse, and the keel hasn't fully formed. It's zygomorphic, even though it almost looks radially symmetrical. It's not. Yeah, so that's neat. There's a sign for beaver tail, but I don't see any beaver tail near that.
That sign's a liar.
That's not a beaver tail. That's maybe a many-headed. That's not a beaver tail. These are all different types of prickly pear.
Yeah, that's a different one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Following it.
That's maybe a many-headed barrel or
Thank God.
a really baby saguaro. Yeah.
It's one of the Fabaceae family.
Is this Palo Verde?
Yeah, just because of the
No, it's not
Oh,
Palo
okay.
Verde. We have to come back to. I'm blanking on our species, so we'll have to come back to that.
Yeah.
But Fabaceae.
What do we call this sort of leaf?
Pinnate. Yeah, and these are leaflets. These are not leaves, right? These are individual. This is one leaf, and with distinct.
Wait, we had this
Leaflets.
conversation in the conservatory, so do I call that a compound leaf?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
This is a compound leaf, so each one of these is one compound leaf. So this guy you'll find here, but on the other side of the Colorado River, south in Arizona, you'll find some. That's white. And the Colorado River probably serves as a divide for it. So this is sandpaper brush, the Mortonia that Misha was bringing up.
Lydia found it. I'm going to give Lydia credit.
Yeah, Celestra.
I just
Yeah,
helped.
Celastraceae, which is one of those that. Oh, what family is Celastraceae? Oh, it's the staff tree family. You're like, oh yeah, right, staff tree. I know. No, I don't know what staff tree is. That does not help. Common names. Celastraceae.
And for those of you who are not from the Southwest, and you don't know about petroglyphs and pictographs, across the Southwest you'll find both. The difference is there's that great organic material made from biofilms, right? Microorganisms. It's in your Natural History of the Sonoran Desert Museum or book. Sorry. And what they do is they like pound through it to get the relief, which is the under orange part. Okay, that's a petroglyph. The pictographs, they use particular plants and then they go and they paint on the walls.
Paint or blow. Sometimes
Yeah, or
with powder.
blow, yeah.
Like the handprints you'll see. You know, that are shot through a reed. Or they do. I don't know that people do that. You know how much they do that now, but certainly the Anasazi and the old and the Paiute. There's some debates about the age of different. I think it's easier to age actually the petroglyphs because the petroglyphs you can age it based on the decomposition of the rock exposed to the air. But I think it's harder. The hieroglyphics are a little harder to because you don't necessarily know the age of the material. It's thought that the Paiute were probably doing that all the way up until Western settlement among some, and then others will say no, this was at least several hundred years before.
And in Utah, you have the Fremont group who did a lot of pictographs, for example, and then mixed with, you can call them Anasazi, which is the word that Navajo used, but it means enemy. But a spin-off, or like actually the ancestors who kind of claim ancestry to the Anasazi, they call it Isatsanome, which is ancient ones. So that's the Hopis. Okay, the Hopi tribe actually, thinks that they're the descendants. So there's like some controversy there, but that makes sense because there's two different tribes and they probably fought.
Candelabras. There's some of them right in here actually. Yeah, you could do.
Yeah.
They've been rubbed off.
Is that Insulia?
Yeah.
No, it's one of those.
Orange sheep. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's brittle bush.
Hands up there.
Wait, up on the rock?
Yeah, how about
There's
that?
a wall of petroglyphs.
I can't see that.
Dylan, what is that plant again that's up on that wall?
Oh, that's Euchnid urens, the Velcro plant.
Velcro, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It was sitting behind us. We forgot to bring it
And
up.
the Loasaceae, the blazing star family. Yeah, pretty cool.
This is a network system showing the infection spread of coronavirus.
They predicted it.
They knew about it.
They knew about it.
It's the R naught value. It looks like an R naught value of 2, 4, 6, 8.
And
They're
look,
warning us.
look, it's
There's
a-
a super spreader.
It's a